The Unova Global has officially concluded, but over the weekend I received tons of comments with questions in regards to the Kyurem fusions. Now I understand these are expensive investments and you don't want to make the wrong decision, so I'm going to be doing my best to cover everything you could possibly need to know about them. Now I'm also going to make sure to do my best to avoid repeats in this video, but some information may overlap from previous videos, so make sure to use the timestamps down below to skip around as needed. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to check out my Ultimate Kyurem Guide video to understand the fundamentals of the fusion process. So I think the most important question that I have to answer right off the bat is going to be, if you failed to get enough fusion energy during the event, is there going to be another way to get it in the future? The answer to this question is always going to be yes. Even if we don't know the exact timeline of when we're going to see these Pokemon return to raids, there will most likely be another event in the future at some point where we are going to be able to raid them again to get their fusion energy. We saw Necrozma in raids for the first time during Go Fest last year, and then about 6 months later during December we actually got a raid day for it. So with that being said, I'm sure many of you guys out there are missing the fusion energy and then also Zekrom or Reshiram to go along with the fusions. It's a little bit tough because, Niantic didn't really give us extra raid passes. I think they definitely should have at least given us like 5 free raid passes every single day. That would have ensured that most players at least got one fusion form, and maybe having to get like 1 or 2 extra premium passes would have been okay. But once again, we only got 2 free raid passes every single day to use, and over the course of the weekend, that really was maybe like 4 to 5 raids. You needed about like 10 to 12 raids to get enough fusion energy for just one fusion form, and that isn't included for the Reshiram or the Zekrom. Although, to be fair, those Pokemon were available on Thursday and Friday respectively, so you could have definitely gone out and raided them on those days rather than over the weekend. Once you get a Black or White Kyurem, can you walk the Kyurem to get more energy even if it's 20 kilometers? If yes, does this also work for Necrozma? So here's the difference between walking for energy, and I understand where this is coming from the Mega Evolution system. So because these Pokemon are going to be permanent fusions, there isn't going to be the ability to actually walk them to earn more energy. I totally understand the frustration behind not being able to do this, but it also makes sense because the Mega Evolutions are 8-hour temporary evolutions, and that system is entirely different from these fusion forms. These are some of the most powerful Pokemon in the game, so you guys have to understand if you were able to get multiple of these, it would just be completely game-breaking. Now, once again, I do understand the frustration on not even being able to get one fusion form during this event, but yeah, unfortunately you cannot walk to get the energy for these Pokemon. There is one question I wanted to revisit in regards to the Kyurem fusions. So basically, I got asked in the last video, what happens if you fuse together a non-shiny Kyurem with a shiny Reshiram, for example? Same thing with a Lucky variant, same thing with a Hundo. Reshiram and Zekrom do not matter at all. Fuse together a bad IV spread, non-shiny, non-lucky, that's going to be what you want to fuse together with your Kyurem. But the Kyurem has to have everything on it. If you want to get a Lucky variant, it's on Kyurem. If you want to get a Hundo, it's on Kyurem. If you want to get a shiny, it's going to be on Kyurem. That is the only question I wanted to repeat in this video because I felt like it was so important. Actually, I take that back. There is one more question I wanted to revisit, and that's going to be the 2 legacy movesets on Black and White Kyurem, because Reshiram and Zekrom have their own legacy movesets, right? They have Fusion Flare and Fusion Bolt respectively. Kyurem has a legacy moveset being Glaciate, and so basically when you fuse them together, do you need to have Fusion Flare or Fusion Bolt on your Reshiram or Zekrom to actually get them on your Black or White Kyurem? The answer is going to be no. So if you actually have an old Reshiram or an old Zekrom without the movesets, that's going to be perfectly fine. Should I power up my Reshiram before fusion for maximum White Kyurem CP? So no. The reason why you don't want to do this is because everything, once again, is based on Kyurem. I have a question: if I fuse together my Kyurem with no background and a Reshiram that does have the background, will the fusion have the background? So I can understand the confusion on this one because there is a combination background where if you fuse together, for example, a Kyurem that has a black background and a Zekrom that has a white background, they're going to get this special combination background that's black and white. So you would think maybe if I fuse together a Kyurem that doesn't have a background with a Zekrom or a Reshiram that has a background, am I at least going to have that one background? The answer is unfortunately going to be no, and this is pretty, consistent with the Kyurem pretty much taking everything. The special background only works if Kyurem has the background as well. You either get the special background by fusing together both backgrounds, or you just continue to have the same background if Kyurem just had a black background or a white background. So if you fuse together, for example, a Kyurem with a black background and Reshiram didn't have a background at all, the fused form would still have that black background. The same could also be said for the white background if Kyurem actually has it, but Zekrom doesn't. If I fuse together my Kyurem that has Glaciate with Reshiram or Zekrom after the event, will I still get the special move? So yes, the most important thing here is that Kyurem is going to have Glaciate on it. That is going to guarantee that you get the special move either Ice Burn or Freeze Shock on your Black Kyurem or White Kyurem. If you don't have the special move Glaciate before you fuse it together, you will not get these legacy movesets. That is the most important thing. It doesn't really matter if you do it after the event. I mean, you can do it anytime you want to, as long as you actually have Glaciate on your Kyurem. I know a lot of people out there who don't watch my videos probably made this mistake, so I mean, again, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, I cover all this stuff, everything you could possibly need to know, and hopefully that is an incentive to actually subscribe and watch these videos moving forward. What happens if I lucky trade my shiny background Kyurem? Will it become the golden lucky background, or will I actually lose the special background? The good news here is that it's actually going to contain both. It pretty much just alternates between the lucky background and then also the special black and white background. The same could also be said if you have a location card. I actually did this during the Hoenn tour with my shiny Groudon that had the Las Vegas background. I lucky traded this with somebody else, and so it has not only the lucky background, but also the special Las Vegas background. It's a really, really cool Pokemon to fuse together, so whether you have the black and white background or a location background from LA or Taipei, it's definitely worth doing that lucky trade. Can Black Kyurem or White Kyurem be traded? I wish this was the case, but unfortunately no, you cannot trade these Pokemon once they've been fused together. Now I definitely got a lot of questions about IVs, and I always get the IV questions after these big events, so I'm going to answer this in a more general standpoint. I'm not going to go through everybody's question individually, although I may highlight some here and there. But basically, when it comes down to Black Kyurem and White Kyurem, I guess we should first talk about their relevance real quick, just once again, and then we'll go over like which IVs I would recommend fusing together. You know, again, like these are expensive fusions, guys. It costs 1,000 energy. You don't want to fuse together something that's kind of mid. You want to fuse together something that has a good IV spread. So basically, when it comes down to White Kyurem, you could either use it in the raid/gym meta, or you could also use it for PvP in the Open Master League. It's going to have relevance in both. Now for Black Kyurem, this isn't going to be as applicable for the raid/gym meta because it doesn't actually get access to an Ice-type fast move. Now for some reason, so many people upvoted this comment on my Ultimate Kyurem Guide video. I have no idea why, because this is completely inaccurate, but apparently somebody said that Black Kyurem is going to be the best Electric-type attacker in the game. That is just 100% false. So first of all, it's not even an Electric type, right? It is an Ice-type and a Dragon type, so it's not going to benefit from Stab. That stands for same type attack bonus. This is massive when it comes down to using Pokemon in the raid/gym meta. Like, it needs to have the same typing that you're going to be using the same moveset for, which is why White Kyurem is so good as an Ice-type attacker, because it is going to be an Ice-type Pokemon. Second, it doesn't have access to an Electric-type fast move, so even though it has access to Fusion Bolt, like, yes, if you're using Party Play, it can still be used as one, but you're better off just using Zekrom by itself rather than Black Kyurem as one. I don't know why this comment got so many upvotes, but I just had to clarify that right now for anybody watching this. So it's definitely a more niche scenario to use it in the raid/gym meta, but when it comes down to PvP, Black Kyurem is going to rank a little bit better than White Kyurem. So for example, I got a question asking me what to do because they don't really care that much about PvP, but they got the Hundo. You can just build a White Kyurem. That's going to be perfectly fine. Basically, when it comes down to raid battles, though, the IVs are not going to matter nearly as much, so I would say anything above 90% IV, regardless if it does have 15 attack or not, is going to be worth fusing together. Like, I would recommend if you want to be on like a budget and save a bunch of Stardust and still get a really good Pokemon, a lucky variant of Kyurem is going to be a great Pokemon to fuse together. So for example, like a lucky shiny, regardless of the IVs, are going to be at least 12, 12, 12 across the board. That's still going to be a worthy Pokemon to invest the fusion into. Now, would I personally do that? Probably not. I would like to get something that's at least 90% plus IVs, ideally 96% IV plus. So hopefully all of that does make sense. Once again, White Kyurem is going to be relevant for both raids as well as PvP, whereas Black Kyurem is mainly going to be usable in PvP, but it does have some niche play in the raid battles. Now keep in mind, if you decide to unfuse your Pokemon, they are going to be free to unfuse, and I guarantee a lot of people are going to get confused about this. They are not going to be free to refuse. If you have to refuse them after you unfuse them, it is going to cost you 1,000 energy once again, and so be very careful before you decide to fuse these Pokemon. Not to mention, if you got the special research this past weekend, which I'm pretty sure everybody did, page 4 requires you to fuse a Kyurem together. So if you haven't gotten to that page yet, do not fuse together your Pokemon just yet. Wait till you get there, and then you can fuse them together to complete that research page. I totally understand there's probably going to be a lot of regretful decision making from this past weekend, whether they fused it together without knowing Glaciate and they didn't get the Adventure Effect moves, or they fuse together a bad IV spread, or they got a shiny later and they want to fuse that together. It is what it is, guys. Like, when it comes down to these fusion forms, you got to be really, really careful. And I know that some people wait for me to post videos on this stuff, and that's why I'm doing this right now, but there's plenty of people who don't even watch my channel who probably are watching this for the first time and they're just like, wow, I really messed up. So if you already fuse them together, it's gonna be okay. Like, you can definitely make the best out of that scenario. It's too expensive to unfuse them. I wouldn't recommend doing that, even if you messed up in some way or another. When you fuse them together, does Black Kyurem or White Kyurem automatically get the secondary charge move, or do we need to unlock that charge move first before we fuse? So it doesn't really matter if you unlock the secondary charge move on Kyurem before or after. It's going to be fine either way, but you do have to spend the Stardust and the candy to actually get that, which is going to be 100,000 Stardust and 100 Kyurem candy. I would strongly recommend this investment, though. It's definitely going to be worth it because White Kyurem can learn Fusion Flare and Black Kyurem can learn Fusion Bolt. That doesn't make them the best in those typings, though. Like, if you want to use it as a fire type or a electric type, you want to go with either Reshiram or Zekrom pre-fusion. Now, I do want to quickly revisit the adventure effects because there were some slight corrections that I want to make in regards to these. For Iceburn, the target ring on Pokemon encounters is going to move more slowly, making it easier to land Excellent throws if you weren't already using the Circle Lock method, for example. Now, this adventure effect is actually going to have an increased catch rate, even better than Freeze Shock. It's going to be a 1.5 times increase to the catch rate, whereas for Freeze Shock, it is also going to have an increased catch rate, but it's only going to be 1.25 times. I can totally understand why this doesn't seem like a big difference, and to be honest, it really isn't that much of a difference, but when it comes down to catching these legendary Pokemon, I would say that makes a big impact. Now, keep in mind, I do think that Freeze Shock was the better adventure effect because it prevents the Pokemon from being able to move anywhere, going up and down or left to right. Some people have even said that it prevents the Pokemon from even attacking you as well. So even though it has a slightly worse catch rate or a slightly worse increased catch rate compared to Iceburn, I mean, Freeze Shock definitely seems like the better one, but the argument for using Iceburn, especially if you're going to be using something like the Circle Lock method, then Iceburn with the improved catch rate actually makes a lot more sense. So when it comes down to it, both adventure effects are definitely worth using. I'm assuming that many of you guys out there were only able to get one fusion, so whichever one you got, don't worry about it. Like, don't have like major FOMO over not picking the other one. They're both going to be good, and they're going to be good for different reasons. I'm going to cover two more bonus questions just because they're kind of related to the event. So save any unwanted Kyurems, Reshiram, or Zekrom for trades next season. This is actually a great comment that I got on one of my most recent videos because we're going to have the guaranteed extra large candy trade bonus coming back for the new season in Pokemon GO, which means in March, April, and May, we're going to have this bonus. So do not transfer these Pokemon, do not, get rid of them, trade them first before you transfer them. Ideally mirror trade them with somebody else if you have people in your local community. Hopefully some of you guys do. This is going to be the best way to get the most out of these Pokemon. I mean, seriously, it takes a lot of resources to get these extra large candy, especially on legendary Pokemon. Plus, there's always going to be the chance of actually getting a lucky variant from doing these special trades, even if you aren't lucky friends. In the past, I was actually able to get a 100% IV Necrozma this way, so I mean, make sure to do them, guys. It can definitely work out in your favor. Now, there is one final question I want to go over in regards to the Lucky Trinket, which for those of you guys that purchased the Tour Pass Deluxe, you were able to get this item. So basically, I have someone that I want to use it on, but I won't see them until early April to trade. If I use it on them right now in the next couple of days before it expires, will we stay lucky friends until we trade in April? Great question, and the answer is going to be yes. When you open Pokemon GO, it is going to give you a notification at the top of your screen that you have to use this item in a set number of days. For me right now, it's like 6 days because I played the in-person event, so you have like 14 days from when you get it, I believe. And so, yes, once you use the Lucky Trinket on one of your friends, they are going to stay lucky friends indefinitely until you guys decide to actually do that trade. Some people, they don't know who they're going to trade with, but there's probably going to be somebody out there that you play with on a regular basis. I would recommend picking them to do your lucky trade with because in the future, we're going to get calm days, we're going to get other events like raid days and stuff like that. If you decide to not use your trade, you could always get a shiny in the future, or your friend could get a shiny in the future that you really, really want, and that's going to be the best time to actually do that lucky trade. Now, with that being said, if you guys have any more questions that you feel like I didn't answer, let me know in the comment section down below. Even if it's like an IV question, like which one should I do, this one or this one, I'll try to go through and answer those as well. I understand it can be difficult to make these decisions, and at the end of the day, guys, the Unova is done. The Kyurem fusions have been covered. I'm going to move on over to my March content in the next couple of days. I do apologize that I can't really get back to questions as often as I would like to. There's just way too many that come in these days, and it's definitely a good problem to have, but I do want to help you guys as much as possible, especially like any viewers who watch my channel regularly. I want to answer your questions if I can. But anyways, with that being said, that's pretty much going to wrap things up for this video. If you want to check out the best Pokemon to power up besides Black Kyurem and White Kyurem, then check out this video next.